Hey, I'm Michael Ashley, and welcome to the Ash Cafe. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. Today, we have with us Darin Matthews. Darin is a director at Negometrix. I hopefully pronounced that correct. And also a very experienced procurement manager. Darin, can you tell us a little bit about Negometrix and yourself? So maybe fill us in a little bit, help the students kind of understand, what you do and how that affects operations.
Sure, happy to do that. When you introduced me, I thought you were going to say procurement geek, because I've been referred to that, and I think that's accurate. So I'll talk a little bit about what I'm currently doing. I work for a company called Negometrics. They're out of the Netherlands, and they provide a digital software solution. And we're working with a lot of public and private clients around the world, helping them solve, supply chain problems out there, particularly in these times. That are being challenging, as we all know, definitely has impacted us. But we're pretty small here in the U.S. We have customers in 8 states. We only have like 13 employees in the U.S., maybe 80 worldwide. So we're not that big, but we're kind of lean and mean. As far as for me, I've only been doing this for about a year. For 25 years prior to that, I was procurement manager, chief of supply chain for most recently for the University of California at Santa Cruz.
Oh, no way. Welcome.
Shout out to the Slugs.
Right on.
In fact, I still keep my part-time faculty role there because I really enjoy, I enjoy supply chain. I enjoy working with students and seeing the great potential out there, seeing their success, because let's be honest, they're going to replace people like me.
Well, I was gonna dive right into your product or service, but now I want to dive a little bit into your background, because you said 25 years in supply chain. I can imagine things have changed a little bit over time. Like, have you seen supply chain change drastically and new things come into it, or are you kind of feeling like, 25 years, it's pretty much the same thing?
Let's see. When I started in supply chain management, I was single and I had a lot of hair. So it's been a long time. But yeah, it has changed drastically over the years. I think it's changed for the better for sure. Certainly leveraging technology, and I think employing supply chain practices that are just better for our companies and for our communities. I think part of that is embracing a global supply chain, including diversity of suppliers, whether that's local, and believe me, there's plenty of things to do. Even when we were in this area, I should say, plenty of things to do. Even in Santa Cruz County, we track local spend, supplier spend, diverse spend. That's important with our supply chains. Back in the 80s when I started, really didn't focus on that area. So that's evolved. And then the other big area, and I'm sure I don't have to tell this to students today, but technology is just off the charts. Back when I started, and I'll use this quick example of package tracking and expediting. Back in the day, if you will, if there was an important shipment, I would get on the phone with the supplier, with the trucking company, maybe with the shipping terminal. Hey, where's my equipment that I need for a repair on Friday? It's really important. That evolved to online package tracking, leading carriers, as we know, provided websites where we could check package and their status. But today I don't have to do any of that. That package through RFID technology will track itself and actually notify me on my handheld device. I'll be there at 2:15. So that to me is just kind of a snapshot of the evolution of technology in my career. But yeah, I know, and I think in the coming years, it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I was in the front end of my supply chain career because there's so much potential out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like things are not just speeding up, but they're speeding up in a way that frees you up to do more things that are, that you have like more value doing, So instead of spending half your day tracking packages, you don't have to worry about that at all. So it is kind of neat because it's not like someone took your job away. It's more like they took away the, menial things you used to have to do so that now you have more time to kind of do some interesting things.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note. We see a lot of automation in supply chain, the use of robotics, automated retrieval systems that are replacing some manual tasks that we used to do in supply chain, that I used to do. I used to unload trucks and operate a forklift, but it really paves the way for opportunity in advanced levels of supply chain, product development, forecasting, strategic sourcing strategies, things that are really pretty fun. So even my supply chain students in Santa Cruz, and actually we're not in Santa Cruz, we're in Santa Clara, right by the 49ers Stadium. But at any rate, we're part of the UC Santa Cruz system. But those students say, hey, do I want to get into supply chain? Isn't everything being automated? I'm like, far from it. That automation is going to help you do your job better and more accurately, but it's not going to replace us.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about supply chain and a little bit about procurement, because I'm actually kind of interested in what you know about procurement as well. But for Negometrix, you said that it's a software solution, and I'm kind of wondering, because our students, we study both products and services, operations that is affecting both companies that sell products and companies that sell services. And there's a lot of companies that have a mixture, and it's a result of, you make products and then you provide the services for those products as well. So tell us just a little bit about Negometrix, and is it a product, or is it a service, or is it some mixture of both?
Let's see. Short answer is it's a mixture of both. We're classified as a SaaS, or software as a service provider, but we provide a hosted software system that allows for a paper-based procurement process to go digital. And both on the buyer and the seller end, through our software platform, offers are submitted, RFPs are issued, contracts are awarded, and it's all digital rather than a lot of paper flying around. So that's the product we provide. As far as the service, that's what we're really big on. And I think, honestly, that's can be what many people say differentiates us from the competition out there, and everyone needs that kind of edge, if you will, as a company. But our service, we're really committed to not just training and implementation, but service after the sale through product support, through a help desk. And one of the cool things I learned about the company is we have a free service. We call it Service Desk, but it's a support and maintenance for suppliers that use our system and for our customers that use it. Call in anytime, you can chat, you can email, but we never outsource that. It's always an employee that you'll talk to, whether that's myself, if I'm taking a shift, or even our CEO in the Netherlands takes a shift every week on our service desk. So just really a culture of support in the service area. And honestly, I don't see that a lot, even on the procurement side, buying goods and services. And that's why I really like, I mentioned buying local in Santa Cruz. I'm a big fan of that, because you have the level of service, commitment, and quality of someone that's a member of your own community. And there's a lot of other benefits financially of spending locally and keeping that money in your community. But I think the service is so important, even if we're buying a product.
Yeah, that kind of connection to your customer isn't natural for a lot of companies. It seems like it's almost something that companies have to try to fake, because they're trying to cut costs or something, and they want to pretend like they're being customer centric. But it's pretty neat that maybe that's part of your culture, or your like the core of your company, that it's important to you guys.
Yeah, it is. It just kind of stands out. And honestly, after spending a lot of years, both in Oregon and in California on the procurement side, mostly in the public sector and higher education, really kind of a change and a shifting of gears in my career. I decided I wasn't completely ready to hang them up quite yet. And so that's why I signed on last year with this company. I'm really happy that I did.
Well, let's take that idea and then jump right into the pandemic, because we are all chugging along, business as usual. Some stuff kind of starts to bubble to the surface in December and January, and you hear people sniffling and coughing and getting sick, and you don't really know what happens. And then wham, like sometime in February or something, businesses start sending people home. They say, don't come into the office. No more conferences, no more face-to-face meetings. I mean, like sales deals are getting shut down. Like tell me a little bit about how this pandemic and COVID and stuff affected you sort of personally, in February. How did this kind of come about, and how did you learn about it? And then how did it affect you and your business?
Yeah, it's been a big impact for all of us, and certainly for me personally and professionally. Let's see, my partner, Dana, and I were at the Negometrics headquarters in just outside of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. When the pandemic broke out, I was there for work reasons, and we cut our trip short to fly back in March of this year. But by then, the pandemic had gotten so bad that we weren't sure they would allow us back into the United States. So we had to fly into San Francisco. You get off the plane, and these folks in these radiation type suits are taking our temperature. It really was surreal. And that was really an eye opener. I'm like, you know what, sweetie, things are going to be different for a while.
Yeah.
And they have been. So we're both, here at home. I'm actually reside most of the time in Las Vegas, but love California as well. But we're working remotely. I feel fortunate to be able to do that. But our company, and it's 80 employees in the Netherlands and also Bulgaria and the US, for the most part working from home, and having to rethink how we work, how we provide product to the market, in our case software, but we were still used to meeting with customers, going to their office, doing trainings in person, going to a lot of conferences. We probably, let's see, the last conference I went to was, I think, the 1st of March in Salem, Oregon. And in that conference, they started talking about, okay, no handshakes at the conference.
Yeah.
They did the opening address. I'm like, okay. And, but that was the last one. After that, every one after the other was canceled. And now some of them are being held digitally. And I think that's going to continue. And I think that's a positive, because we all need some interaction professionally. We need training, but it takes an adjustment for sure. So that's been kind of my adjustment. Now the customers that we work with, they're adjusting as well. Many public sector procurement offices are working remotely. They're not having anybody come in. And in a way, that's a blessing and a curse. Certainly, we don't want to see that situation. But right away, many organizations needed a product that we have. So that means, okay, I can't be into the office. I don't want to have paper. I don't want delivering things to me.
Yeah.
And if you did deliver it, there's no one there at the office anymore.
Yeah.
So how about let's do this digital? So that's how we've been working.
And probably the fact that you're a SaaS, meaning you offer your software through the cloud, I guess, supposedly, that means that people can work on your software from anywhere. So they don't need to go to the office to get onto the, machine that has the software installed on it. They actually log into your software from their laptop at home, right?
Correct. It is a hosted solution. All that's needed is a web browser and even an iPhone. We're mobile friendly. So if you're, of course, now even Starbucks are closed down. I was going to use an example. If you're in Starbucks and you have a Wi-Fi and a cell phone, you can get onto our platform and look at the bids.
Yeah.
But even that is closed down a bit. So.
Wow. What about this transition? You talked about 80 employees all of a sudden having to work from home. Were you guys prepared for that as a company? Like, have you already been thinking about, how do we work remotely? How do we, have meetings remotely and things like that? Or did you have to kind of speed that up?
We had to speed it up. Here in the US, where our team is smaller, we're kind of East Coast and West Coast, Miami, New York, California. And then I was based out of Santa Cruz, Scotts Valley initially, and then kind of moved to Las Vegas. Since we're all remote, it doesn't really impact our meetings. So it was a lot more, I had to work a lot harder to stay connected, whether that's team meetings, interaction, being comfortable in the digital world, comfortable with the video conferencing, maybe every day sometimes. So we had to, but I think we were a little better prepared than, say, our colleagues in Utrecht, where our headquarters resides. A great company, great people. They were used to going into the office every day and working together for the most part. In fact, the company provided in the office coffee. They catered lunch in every day. In fact, when I was there for a week for training, I'm like, I could get used to this.
Yeah.
I've got free meals, hanging out with great people. And when we did it after hours, they did a training. They catered in food again for a international meeting that our CEO spoke at. And then after the meeting, they broke out some really nice wine. So,
yeah.
My company colleagues in the Netherlands, I think that's been more of an adjustment for them because they didn't do as much remote work. That said, they're adjusting well. They're connecting with clients virtually. We phased a little bit as far as going back into the office on kind of a hybrid schedule recently. But I think some numbers in Europe have been spiking. And so I think our company and others are going to stick to the remote for a while. And we all know that's an adjustment.
Yeah. It seemed in the beginning remote was kind of interesting. It was sort of fun to be able to say, hey, I can join a meeting in my pajamas,
Right.
Now it's sort of worn off. People are really craving this human connection, and they really want to hang out together and talk to each other and meet with each other. And so much magic happens, when you actually get the chance to hang out with people.
That's so true. And that's tough to replace. Both, if you talk about the classroom, and I've always been a fan of virtual learning, online learning, but connecting with the student in person and being able to meet them, that's really cool too in a classroom. So I've always enjoyed both. So now it's strictly virtual. Just about every campus around here I'm seeing do that. Work colleagues, it's all virtual. I've worked for almost a year with our marketing manager in New York. Feel pretty close to him. Steve's a great guy. He and his wife are getting ready to have their first child. I've never met him in person. Never met him in person. I hope someday I can.
Yeah.
But on a personal level, so like I said, Dana and I have kids kind of spread out, but we do Zoom meetings to connect with them. And I love doing that, seeing how they're doing, what's up in their world, but it's not the same as being in the same room with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move to your customers, because I'm interested to see a little bit about, how did they react to this scenario? Did it speed up buying with you? Did it slow down buying with you? Did it change the sales cycle? How were customers sort of adapting to this new world that we're in?
It definitely took a little bit or a lot of adapting. If you look at, say, our typical sales cycle in my company would be, outreach to a potential lead or a prospect at a conference. Hey, this is our software. Here's a brochure. Here's my business card. You're shaking their hand. You might be having, social hour with them, eating with them. That went away. And so how do we adjust? How do we connect? So that was a struggle. We've been doing a lot more virtual events, virtual conferences. We do a lot of company training, even things that are not necessarily sales related, although we do sell a product and a service. Sometimes we just do content-based learning, say, hey, love to catch up with you and talk about a certain element of, diversifying supplier spend. We did a webinar on that last month that was very well attended. So it's related to what we do for software, but it wasn't a webinar about software. So we're rethinking that. And then, our customers, I would say some were more ready than others. Some of them promoted a working environment remotely, and they allowed some telework or telecommute, we've heard it called. Some more traditional managers were of the opinion, that, hey, you have to be in the same office so I can make sure you're working and see what you're doing, and I can walk by there and kind of monitor. I've never felt that type of management was effective. In fact, 20 years ago in the county government in Oregon, we were in Portland. We were doing remote work, but that was only like one day a week, and it was kind of a privilege. Now it's a necessity, and it's every day. So, but I think organizations that have allowed it on a part-time basis and have allowed, enable the technology with their team member to do it, because you do need the right technology, and you can kind of tell when someone is struggling in that area, or they're not fully prepared, or their company hasn't prepared them either with training or the right technology tools or a good, internet connection, video cameras, those types of things. So, so I still think it's a work in progress, for sure.
For sure. So the software that you guys provide helps companies manage supply chain and procurement, things like that. Did you hear anything from them that was sort of feedback to you, like, hey, because of COVID, we're having more difficulties with our supply chain, or maybe we're having more security concerns, or we're having, was there anything that kind of happened as a result of the pandemic that maybe is going to influence your roadmap or the way you think about supply chain, going forward?
It will impact our roadmap for sure. We have a culture as a company of engaging our customers and listening to them, have annual and quarterly events to get feedback on our software. Hey, what can we do better? What's working, what's not? But this provided an opportunity, I think, to really speed that up and make it more frequent. So we're not waiting once a year for user day to listen to customer experiences. It's a every week or sometimes an every day type of event with the things that they need, because they're all working remotely. The other impact that we viewed with our customers is many of them in procurement are also part of emergency operations for their organization. We have a lot of customers in Florida, and like every state, they're facing high numbers of COVID cases, buying personal protective equipment for their teams, doing other things to support of emergency operations. So they're doing that on the side, if you will, because that's part of their role. And sometimes they do a bid or an RFP for PPE through our platform. And a lot of folks out there selling those and marketing those materials right now. So they're getting a lot of participation in those particular bids. But those are just a couple of examples of how they have been impacted.
Yeah. What do you think about the pandemic creating an opportunity for companies? A lot of people are talking about COVID happened and it's hurting a lot of companies. Like, people are losing jobs. Some businesses aren't going to make it. Like, we know there are a lot of bad things happening, but we also can see that there are some companies that are almost, they were well positioned to be able to take advantage of this new world that we're entering, whether they're security companies and now their security is available because people are working remotely, or maybe they're supply chain companies like yours who maybe have a digital solution that's now finally like the world's ready for it or something. So let's talk a little bit about maybe the competitive advantages or the things that people can do or have done to take advantage of this new world that we're working in.
Yeah, I've definitely seen this past year, during the pandemic. I don't know if it's fair to say the haves and the have-nots, but when I say that, I mean it's opportunity and the niche that they're in. And nobody could, I don't believe, have foreseen the pandemic that we're in. Worldwide impact every day in the newspaper, on every page, there's something about it. Sometimes I just get, I'm thinking, am I in like a really bad movie right now? Oh, but I'm not. This is the reality as we know it. But there are companies that it's been an opportunity to maybe either advance their market, expand their market share. That's one of the things that we've been able to do to some extent. We actually continue to gain customers because of the type of product that we supply. Again, we don't want these conditions to help us make sales, but we are in the situation that we're in, and we just have found that during the pandemic, a product like ours was needed by many organizations. So this digital procurement market that we're in, and there are a lot of competitors in the US in this space, I think they've all kind of seen opportunities continue. For example, our company, since the pandemic broke out in March, has hired 3 new employees and not laid off anybody else. So we're incredibly fortunate to be able to say that and do that. I'm lucky to get up and go to work every day in my house. There are other businesses that you mentioned that some aren't going to make it, some haven't made it. Some people that have worked their whole life to build a small business or a medium-sized business, it's going to be really tough. It is really tough on them. If you look at here just in Las Vegas, some businesses are doing really well. If you look at like food providers that provide either the to-go or the drive-through. In fact, there's not far from here, there's an In-N-Out burger. They have like multiple lines of their drive-through, and they have employees out in the parking lot taking orders to help speed it up. I don't know what their books are saying, but I bet their revenue has grown. So that's a niche that, it worked out well for them. But other independent contractors in this area, including performers, dancers on the strip that are classified as independent contractors, the entertainment industry and the hospitality industry is shut down for the most part in Las Vegas, and that's meant thousands of jobs. And it's heartbreaking. So I guess some industries are faring well. Others are not.
Yeah, we talk about in class a lot about competitive advantage, and in product design and innovation, we're always trying to think about how can we make our product better, cheaper, or faster, right?
Mhm.
Like how do we make it more responsive? How do we make, reduce the prices and or the costs or whatever? So in your situation, it sounds like, and from the stories you've told, you guys have invested heavily in your customer relationships, which kind of plays to this better and more responsive competitive advantage. Like you said, you can meet with your customers more often now, and that increases your response to their needs. Like you can probably get what they need into your software faster, and those kinds of things. So, what do you think, just for other companies out there, what are some things that maybe you've learned in the last few months about working with either vendors in the supply chain, or working with customers in a sales cycle, or even working with marketing and thinking about how they're going to do marketing operations differently? Anything you've learned or challenges that you've overcome that you could share with us that could be applied across the board to lots of different companies?
Sure. I think first of all, we just need to rethink how we go about things, because things are so differently, whether that's on the sales side or the buying side. And we've had to do that as a company. One of the things that we're looking at is offering our product for free on a trial basis. For one, it helps organizations out because, say, if you're looking at a public agency, they can be notoriously slow for either getting budget or getting something approved. I've been there, done that. So if it's free, maybe they'll use it. Maybe they'll become a regular customer. Other providers of digital software solutions like ours are doing similar offers. So that's part of it, because cost does factor into the equation when you're trying to get an advantage, if you will. Of course, if that's a competitive advantage as your price point, it being at zero, and your competitor is doing the same thing, then it may not be as much of an advantage as we originally thought. But so we've looked at doing that. And then I just think that the things that are the new normal, we have to figure out what that is. So I can tell you, like doing sales training, when I came on board with the company, kind of the sales cycle, product marketing, those things are still important. But one of the things that we're really shifting gears now a little bit is providing value, maybe in another way, but we still get that name recognition that we hope is eventually a differentiator in a product decision, in our case for software. So we had a really great sales training from an East Coast provider. Of course, everything was on Zoom. And he was talking about, don't make the sales pitch. If you do get them on the phone, ask them how they're doing. Do they have problems in procurement? Let them talk about their pain points, and really just show some empathy and care. Not as a ploy, you want to be sincere, because we do care about our customers, but it's just a different approach to sales and marketing. So we have some really great people in this area on our sales team, and they have a great track record. You look at their resume or their LinkedIn, and you're like, wow, I'm not worthy to be working with this group. But then they are rethinking their traditional sales strategies and their customer interactions.
Yep.
Or potential customers. So that's some observations that I've seen.
Yeah, incredible what's happening right now. So let's just talk about the future real quick, and then we'll wrap it up here. But I want to kind of get your take on, is this the new normal? Is this going to be the way it is for us forever going on? Or like, maybe just leave us with a couple words of wisdom around, the new, what do we have in store coming up?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that I would definitely agree with you on your statement about the new normal. I think we need to be prepared for that for the long term. Honestly, and this is just being naive on my part, when the pandemic happened in March, I'm like, okay, let's go to Las Vegas for 2 or 3 months, and yeah, then things will get back to normal. Well, now it's been 7 months or 6 months, and it's not back to normal, and things in some cases are getting worse. So I think we need to adjust to the new normal. I think on the personal level, we're going to continue to see the PPE equipment, the masks, the hand sanitizers, the lack of real close interaction, the restrictions in public spaces. I think that's well into 2021, if not beyond that. And I'm not a health expert. I just am kind of a realist. So I think with that, we need to continue to adapt our supply chain strategies. We need to use technology. One of the really cool things I see about students, and I'm careful about age-related comments, but many of the students that I work with are under 30, and that's really super young for me. And they bring a set of technology skills that are off the charts, honestly. And I think leveraging those technology skills in a digital world are only going to help them. Even if you're in an industry that's not necessarily high tech or software, those technology skills just to interact with your boss or to have a job interview are going to be helpful. And then I guess the last thing I would say is, as technology, in my career, from the 80s until now in 2020, I've seen this advancement in supply chain technology. Hang on for the ride in the next 5 years, 10 years, and what we will see with artificial intelligence and big data and more automation. And again, it's going to continue to help us. I still think supply chain is just a dynamite career field, and you won't be sorry to pursue it. And I wish all of the students the best in this area. And if we ever get a chance to catch up, I'd welcome the opportunity, even if it's digitally. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I love the stuff that you said about customers, being close to them. I love what you just mentioned about AI and not being afraid of technology improving, and I can imagine a future where these students now are actually the ones building these new, supply chain systems you're talking about that take AI and they take technology, but they meld it with that real customer concern that you brought up. And I think that the COVID pandemic thing has made one thing really clear, and that is, yes, we can work independently and separated, but we crave that customer, that human connection.
For sure. No, I would agree with that. And I think that definitely this generation that we're seeing up and coming is up to the challenge, and I'll sit back and watch.
Darin, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hopefully get you back on here maybe in the future, and then we can talk about, how things have changed, but really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on.
Okay. Thank you. Everyone take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.